Viewer discretion is advised. This content is for education and entertainment purposes. Any opinions are the opinion of hosts or guests and not the opinion of employers.
Hey, Ousters! Thanks again for tuning in to Oust Now Podcast Presents This Is Us. And today's episode is going to be on Fannie Lou Hamer.
Thank you so much for joining us. We are so excited to talk about this wonderful, amazing woman who is little known in our history.
Yeah, you asked me, and I had to give an honest answer. When you asked me, you was like, you heard of her? No. Why haven't we heard of her, T?
I don't know. It's funny how that works. I promise I was gonna put my petty away sometime earlier today. However, I feel like it is I will say this. I may or may not have learned about her in elementary school, but that was too many years to count. And the great thing about being an adult and kind of learning back to some of those things that we may or may not have missed, may or may not have been taught, is I think we have a better appreciation for it as an adult than what we might have had when we were kids. So
I agree. And when I sit back and think about it, I was like, okay, the name does sound um familiar, but I just don't, I cannot recall. Maybe after we get into it, I'll be like, yeah, maybe. So, you know,
yeah.
let's see. You know, Hamer was born as Fannie Lou Townsend on October 6, 1917, in Montgomery County, Mississippi. She was the last of 20 children of Luella and James Lee Townsend. In 1919, the Townsends moved to Ruleville, Mississippi, to work as sharecroppers on W.D. Marlowe's plantation. From age 6, Hamer picked cotton with her family. During the winter of 1924 through 1930, she attended the one-room school provided for sharecroppers' children, open between picking seasons. Hamer loved reading and excelled in spelling bees and recited poetry, but at the age of 12, she had to leave school to help support her aging parents. By the age of 13, she would pick 200 to 300 pounds of cotton daily while living with polio.
Hamer continued to develop her reading and interpretation skills in Bible study at her church. In later years, Lawrence Guyot admired her ability to connect the biblical exhortations for liberation and the struggle for civil rights anytime that she wanted to and move in and out to any frames of reference. In 1944, after the plantation owner discovered her literacy, she was selected as its time and record keeper. The following year, she married Perry Pap Hamer, a tractor driver on the Marlowe plantation, and they remained there for the next 18 years. Okay.
Hamer and her husband wanted very much to start a family, but in 1961, a white doctor subjected Hamer to a hysterectomy without her consent while she was undergoing a surgery to remove a uterine tumor. Wow. Forced sterilization was a common method of population control in Mississippi that targeted poor African American women. Members of the Black community called the procedure a Mississippi appendectomy. The Hamers later raised two girls they adopted, eventually adopting two more. One, Dorothy Jean, died at age 22 of internal hemorrhaging after she was denied admission to the local hospital because of her mother's activism. Wow.
Hmm. Hamer became interested in the civil rights movement in the 1950s. She heard leaders of the local movement speak at annual Regional Council of Negro Leadership conferences held in Mound Bayou, Mississippi. The attendees of the yearly conferences discussed Black voting rights and other civil rights issues Black communities in the area faced. She made a good friend of RCNL founder and head TRM Howard.
On August 31st, 1962, Hamer and 17 others attempted to vote but failed a literacy test, which meant they could not vote. On December 4th, just after she returned to her hometown, Hamer went to the courthouse in Indianola where she took the test again, but she failed it again and she was turned away as a result. She told the registrar, "You'll see me every 30 days till I pass." Period. On
Mhm.
January 10th, 1963, she took the test a third time. She was successful and was informed that she was now a registered voter in Mississippi. But when she attempted to vote that fall, she discovered her registration did not allow her to vote, as her county also required voters to have two poll tax receipts.
Don't you love it when they just try to move the bar? They. This requirement had emerged in some mostly former Confederate states after the right to vote was first given to all races by the 1870 ratification of the 15th Amendment to the United States Constitution. These laws, along with the literacy tests and local government acts of coercion, were used against Black people and Native Americans. Hamer later paid for and acquired the requisite poll tax receipts.
As an example of how Black citizens was disenfranchised in Mississippi, Hamer said that she had never heard until 1962 that Black people could register and vote. After she attempted to vote, Hamer was fired by her boss, but her husband was required to stay on the land until the end of the harvest. Hamer moved between homes over the next several days for protection. On September 10th, 1962, while staying with a friend, Mary Tucker, Hamer was shot at 15 times in a drive-by shooting by racists. No one was injured in the event. The next day, Hamer and her family evacuated to nearby Tallahatchie County for 3 months, fearing retaliation by the Ku Klux Klan because she had attempted to vote.
I'll come. I'll. Oof. Do you want to take that last bit of her quote, and then I'll take the next one, which seemed kind of long?
I got you.
Yeah.
Whew. I guess if I had any sense, I'd have been a little scared. But what was the point of being scared? The only thing they could do was kill me. And it kind of seemed like they'd been trying to do that for a little bit at this time since I could remember. Fannie Lou Hamer.
On June 9th, 1963, Hamer was returning from a voter registration workshop by the Southern Christian Leadership Conference in Charleston, South Carolina. Traveling by bus with co activists, they stopped for a break in Winona, Mississippi. Some of the activists went inside a local cafe, but were refused service by the waitress. Shortly after, a Mississippi State Highway patrolman took out his billy club and intimidated the activists into leaving. One of the group decided to take down the officer's license plate number. While doing so, the patrolman and police chief entered the cafe and arrested the party. Hamer left the bus and inquired if they could continue their journey back to Greenwood, Mississippi. At that point, the officers arrested her as well. Once in county jail, Hamer's colleagues were beaten by the police in the booking room, including 15-year-old June Johnson for not addressing officers as sir. Hamer was then taken to a cell where two inmates were ordered by the state trooper to beat her using a baton. The police ensured she was held The police ensured she was held down during the almost fatal beating, and when she started to scream, beat her further. Hamer was also groped repeatedly by officers during the assault. When she attempted to resist, she stated an officer walked over, took my dress, pulled it up over my shoulders, leaving my body exposed to 5 men. Another in her group was beaten until she was unable to talk. A third, a teenager, was beaten, stomped on, and stripped. An activist from SNCC came to the next An activist from SNCC came the next day to see if he could help, but was beaten until his eyes were swollen shut when he did not address an officer in the expected deferential manner.
I guess times never really changed, huh?
Hmm.
Hamer was released on June 12, 1963. She needed more than a month to recuperate from the beatings and never fully recovered. Through the incident left profound physical and psychological effects, including a blood clot over her left eye and permanent damage on one of her kidneys. Hamer returned to Mississippi to organize voter registration drives, including the 1963 Freedom Ballot, a mocking election, and the Freedom Summer Initiative the following year. She was known to the volunteers of Freedom Summer as a motherly figure who believed that civil rights efforts should be multiracial in nature. In addition to her northern guests, Hamer played host to Tuskegee University student activist Sammy Young Jr. and Weldon Parrish. Young and Parrish grew to become profound activists and organizers under Hamer's tutelage. Young was murdered in 1966 at a gas station in Macon County, Alabama, for using a whites only restroom.
In 1964, Hamer co founded the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, which sought to prevent the region's all white Democratic Party from stifling African American voices and to ensure there was a party for everyone that did not tolerate exploitation or discrimination, especially toward minorities. That summer, Hamer and other MFDP members traveled to the 1964 Democratic National Convention to stand as the official delegation from the state of Mississippi. Hamer's televised testimony to the convention's Credentials Committee was interrupted because of an impromptu speech and press conference that President Lyndon B. Johnson gave in the White House East Room with 30 governors present. But later that evening, most major news networks broadcast Hamer's testimony in its entirety, giving her and the MFDP much exposure.
All of this is on account. We want to register to become first-class citizens. And if the Freedom Democratic Party is not seated now, I question America. Is this America? The land of the free and the home of the brave, where we have to sleep with our telephones off the hook because our lives are threatened daily, because we want to live as decent human beings in America. Fannie Lou Hamer. What's so sad is we think we have come so far and realize not really.
Yeah. Think Derek Chauvin, who there's talks about him getting pardoned from a federal level. Like, fuck that bitch. Fuck that motherfucker. He's an evil person. And he deserves every fucking moment that he spends in jail.
And then
Just saying. I hope it. Girl, I almost.
Mr. Chairman, and to the Credentials Committee, my name is Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer, and I live at 626 East Lafayette Street, Roosevelt, Mississippi. Sunflower County, the home of Senator James O. Eastland and Senator Stinnett. It was the 31st of August in 1962 that 18 of us traveled 26 miles to the county courthouse in Indianola to try to register to become first-class citizens. We was met in Indianola by policemen, highway patrolmen, and they only allowed 2 of us in to take the literacy test at the time. After we had taken this test and started back to Roosevelt, we was held up by the city police and the state highway patrolmen and carried back to Indianola, where the bus driver was charged that day with driving a bus the wrong color. After we paid the fine among us, we continued on to Roosevelt, and Reverend Jeff Sonny carried me 4 miles in the rural area where I had worked as a timekeeper and sharecropper for 18 years. I was met there by my children that told me the plantation owner was angry because I had gone down, tried to register. After they told me, my husband came and said the plantation owner was raising Cain because I had tried to register. And before he quit talking, the plantation owner came and said, Fannie Lou, do you know, did Pap tell you what I said? And I said, yes, sir. He said, well, I mean that, said if you don't go down and withdraw your registration, you will have to leave. Said then if you go down and withdraw, that you still might have to go because we are not ready for that in Mississippi. And I addressed him and told him that I didn't try to register for you. I tried to register for myself. I had to leave that same night. On the 10th of September 1962, 16 bullets was fired into the home of Mr. and Mrs. Robert Tucker for me. That same night, 2 girls were shot in Rooseville, Mississippi. Also, Mr. Joe McDonald's house was shot in. And June the 9th, 1963, I had attended a voter registration workshop, was returning back to Mississippi. 10 of us was traveling by the Continental Trailway bus. When we got to Winona, Mississippi, which is Montgomery County, 4 of the people got off to use the washroom, and 2 of the people to use the restaurant. 2 of the people wanted to use the washroom. The 4 people that had gone in to use the restaurant was ordered out. During this time, I was on the bus. But when I looked through the window and saw they had rushed out, I got off of the bus to see what had happened. And one of the ladies said it was a state highway patrolman and a chief of police ordered us out. I got back on the bus, and one of the persons who had used the washroom got back on the bus too. As soon as I was seated on the bus, I saw when they began to get the 5 people in a highway patrolman's car. I stepped off of the bus to see what was happening, and somebody screamed from the car that the fire workers was in and said, "Get that one there." And when I went to get in the car, when the man told me I was under arrest, he kicked me. I was carried to the county jail and put in the booking room. They left some of the people in the booking room and began to place us in cells. I was placed in a cell with a young woman called Miss Vesta Simpson. After I was placed in the cell, I began to hear sounds of licks and screams. I could hear the sounds of licks and horrible screams. And I could hear somebody say, "Can you say yes, sir, nigger? Can you say yes, sir?" And they would say other horrible names. She would say, "Yes, I can say yes, sir." So, "Well, say it." She said, "I don't know you well enough." They beat her I don't know how long. And after a while, she began to pray and ask God to have mercy on those people. And it wasn't too long before 3 white men came to my cell. One of these men was a state highway patrolman, and he asked me where I was from. And I told him Rooseville. He said, "We're going to check this." And they left my cell, and it wasn't too long before they came back. He said, "You were from Rooseville, all right," and he used a curse word. And he said, "We're going to make you wish you was dead." I was carried out of that cell into another cell where they had 2 Negro prisoners. The state highway patrolman ordered the first Negro to take the blackjack. The first Negro prisoner ordered me, by orders from the state highway patrolman, for me to lay down on a bunk bed on my face. And I laid on my face. The first Negro began to beat. And I was beat by the first Negro until he was exhausted. I was holding my hands behind me at that time on my left side because I suffered from polio when I was 6 years old. After the first Negro had beat until he was exhausted, the state highway patrolman ordered the second Negro to take the blackjack. The second Negro began to beat, and I began to work my feet. And the state highway patrolman ordered the first Negro had beat to sit on my feet, to keep me from working my feet. I began to scream, and one white man got up and began to beat me in my head and tell me to hush. One white man, my dress had worked up high. He walked over and pulled my dress. I pulled my dress down, and he pulled my dress back up. I was in jail when Medgar Evers was murdered. All of this is on account of we want to register to become first-class citizens. And if the Freedom Democratic Party is not seated now, I question America. Is this America, the land land of the free and the home of the brave, where we have to sleep with our telephones off of the hook because our lives be threatened daily, because we want to live as decent human beings in America. Thank you.
To ease tensions at the convention, Senator and soon to be Vice President nominee Hubert Humphreys offered a compromise on Johnson's behalf that would allocate 2 seats to the Freedom Democratic Party with a promise of further reform at the 1968 convention. Probably empty promises, but whatever. The MFDP rejected the offer, with Hamer saying, "We didn't come all the way up here to compromise for no more than we'd gotten here. We didn't come all this way for no 2 seats when all of us is tired." Afterward, the white members from the Mississippi delegation walked out. The MFDP was finally seated at the 1968 National Convention when the Democratic Party adopted a clause demanding equality of representation from all of its state delegations. In 1972, Hamer was elected as a National Party delegate.
Also in 1964, Hamer embarked on a plan to run in the Democratic primary in her Mississippi U.S. House district. She was soundly defeated in the primary by segregationist incumbent James Whitten, but her action set in motion a consequential series of events. After the primary, she worked with Annie Devine and Victoria Gray to qualify for the November election ballot as third party candidates of the MFDP. Again, the bid was unsuccessful, but the aftermath of the general election, she and her team amazed 10,000 pages of witness testimony from more than 400 people about systematic disenfranchisement and intimidation intimidation of black voters. At the time, black citizens comprised 52.4% of her congressional district population, but less than 3 of its registered voters. She used the compiled evidence to file an election contest in the U.S. House, challenging the seats of the Mississippi congressional delegation on the grounds that their elections were marred by voting discrimination and unconstitutional disenfranchisement of black voters. The House committee dismissed her election challenge, but the testimony she collected was considered instrumental in passing the Voters' Rights Act of 1965.
Hamer traveled around the country speaking at colleges, universities, and institutions. She was not rich, as confirmed by her clothing and vernacular. Moreover, Hamer was a short, stocky, poor black woman with a deep Southern accent, which gave rise to ridicule in the minds of many in her audiences. Although she was an in demand speaker, she was often patronized by both blacks and whites because she lacked formal education. For instance, NAACP leader Roy Wilkins said Hamer was ignorant and President Lyndon Johnson looked down on her. When she was being considered to speak as a delegate at the 1964 Democratic Convention, Hubert Humphrey said, The president will not allow that illiterate woman to speak from the floor of the convention.
I see some ignorance, but I don't know if it's her.
There you go.
In 1964, Hamer received an honorary degree from Tagaloo College, much to the dismay of a group of black intellectuals who thought she was undeserving of such an honor because she was unlettered. On the other hand, Hamer had staunch supporters, including Ella Baker, Bob Moses, Charles McLaurin, and Malcolm X, who believed in her story and in her ability to communicate effectively. These supporters and others like them believe that despite Hamer's illiteracy, people who have struggled to support themselves and large families, people who have survived in Georgia and Alabama and Mississippi have learned something we need to know. She was known to invoke strong emotions in her listeners, indicative of her telling it like it is oratorical style. You know what's crazy to me when reading that? It really hasn't changed. You have people of color who will talk against another person of color for whatever reason.
Mhm.
Uh, why we already have to battle everything on the outside, but have to deal with it from within, from all of us. Man,
Absolutely. Um, Hamer's style of speaking and connecting to audiences can be traced back to her upbringing and the Black Baptist church to which her family belonged, which many see as the source of her ability to compel audiences with words. Woven into her speeches was a deep level of confidence, biblical knowledge, and even comedy in a way that many did not think possible for someone without a formal education or access to institutionalized power.
at speaking engagements, Hamer made speeches and also sang, often with the Freedom Singers. Charles Neblett, one of its members, said of Hamer, "We'd let her sing all the songs we did that she knew. She put her whole self into her singing, adding a power to the group. When somebody puts their inner self into a song, it moves people. Her singing shows the kind of dedication that she had, the struggle and the pain, the frustration and the hope. Her life would be in that song."
One of Hamer's most famous speeches was at Williams Institutional Church in Harlem on December 20th, 1964. She appeared along with Malcolm X in a speech sick and tired of being sick and tired. She chronicled the violence and injustices she experienced while trying to register to vote, while highlighting the various acts of brutality she witnessed in the South. She was careful to tie in the fact that blacks in the North and all over the country were suffering the same oppression.
In 1961, while undergoing surgery to remove a tumor, Hamer was also forced to undergo a hysterectomy by a white doctor without her consent. This medical procedure was frequently performed in accordance with Mississippi compulsory sterilization plan to reduce the number of poor blacks in the state. Hamer is credited with coining the phrase Mississippi appendectomy, a euphemism for involuntary or uninformed sterilization of Black women, a common practice in the South during the 1960s.
In January 1972, she was hospitalized for an extended period because she was suffering from nervous exhaustion. And after she suffered a nervous breakdown in January 1974, she was hospitalized again. By June of 1974, Hamer was said to be in extremely poor health. 2 years later, she was diagnosed with and underwent surgery for breast cancer. Mm,
Oh, this lady deserves so much better, Jesus.
she did.
Hammer died of complications from hypertension and breast cancer on March 14th, 1977, age 59, at Taborian Hospital, Mount Bayou, Mississippi. She was buried in her hometown of Ruleville, Mississippi. Her tombstone is engraved with one of her famous quotes: "I am sick and tired of being sick and tired." Girl, I did not know that's where that quote came from.
I thought of you when I first saw it. I was like, oh, I wonder if we know
Oh,
where this actually comes from. Because you said that when we were doing
no.
Rosa Parks. You remember? I don't know if it made the final
Girl.
edit, but yep. That was a lot.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah.
I don't think times have changed that much. That's my take on it. I feel like part of the reason why they want to do away with what we're doing right now
Mm.
with history, and definitely history of Black and Brown people, is because um, no accountability, and when you don't know, the whole point of teaching history or knowing history is so that way it doesn't repeat itself. But everything, uh, a lot of it's unfortunate, a lot of stuff that we are discussing right now from history is still happening.
Yeah.
I think about the involuntary sterilization, the unconsented sterilization of people of color, and even though it's not consented, I think about how they really push for women. I don't, from my experience, I can't speak on anybody else's experience, but I feel like it was a strong push. Get your tubes tied. Get your tubes tied. You want to get your tubes tied? It's free if you get your tubes tied. Um, and I really experienced that. Um,
Yeah.
shortly after, I want to say, my oldest daughter, I want to say, they really put a push. And I'm not really for sure if I wasn't for sure if it was just me,
Mm.
um, young Black single mother at the time, because that was before I got married and now divorced, so I'm still a single mother. black single mother, just not young. Just take the young part off of it. Um,
Okay.
um, but
Mm,
uh, uh, it's sad that like I said earlier, it seems like we have progressed, like, but have we really?
mm. And it's really not that long ago. And you may
Um,
have heard us say this before, but right now it's 2025. Yes, I pulled out my calculator. This was 1964. That was 61 years ago. So there are people alive today. There's people alive today who either experience this as a black person or experience this as a white person and hold those views, those similar views. It's like the lady who, Samantha Clark, when that white lady was like, you do need to bathe more often because of your skin color, and we don't have to bathe as often because our skin is pure. Like there's people walking around today with this
that
kind
think
of
that.
mindset. Yeah, who think that.
Just like the old guy that confessed when he
Oh
worked
yeah.
for the fire department. He
Hmm.
confessed that they would actually let people of color die and
Yeah.
listen to them burn alive and ask for
Allegedly. Allegedly, right?
allegedly.
Because that's
Girl,
never been
thank you for
proven in
saying
court.
allegedly. Girl, thank you for saying allegedly.
Allegedly, but he seemed
Cause
to
I
come forth and seem
will
pretty
it in.
bold about saying it to some stranger. I guess maybe he felt he needed to cleanse his soul with it, but honey,
You could have
that
kept
ain't it.
that. You should
Kept
kept
himself
it.
because God knows, first and foremost. Um,
Maybe
but
that was his way of sorry.
that's between you
You
and
think that could
God.
have been?
It's
You saying
confessing it
there's no
to
sorry? I'm
a
sorry.
stranger in a gas station. If this was true, and what he's saying was, wasn't some made up story for TikTok, because people have come up with some really good ones. Let's just say that.
Girl, because they almost had us fooled, right? We
Okay.
thought the whole baby daddy got shot. What?
Fake
He didn't
news,
get shot?
right?
Aw. I mean,
Um,
good he didn't get shot, but girl, why is you out here playing?
yeah, but at least with Samantha Clark, I watched a lot of her content over, on and off, and she seems pretty legit. She works in a medical office, so I found hers a little bit easier to prove because, but there's people, I guess there's people alive who still have that mindset.
Absolutely.
So for everyone who wants to like
Oh, we can tell that from what's
discount.
going on.
Yeah, absolutely. But we can tell that. But I think there's a lot of people who may look at it as if, well, times have changed and it's not like that anymore. Wah, wah, wah. Some things, yes, but some things, no. You
Mm,
ask George Floyd's family if they feel like times have changed because he lost
period.
his life over allegedly a fake 20. Uh,
I thought
sorry?
it was a check. I thought it was a check.
I don't know. We'd have to Google that, but I thought it was like over a fake bill or check, whatever was the scenario. But it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter. Like there's nothing.
It should cost your life.
You as a police officer are not the judge, jury. You are the police
Executioner.
officer. You enforce the law and you arrest
Period.
those that you can prove and it's not up to anyone else to decide. That is between the courts, right?
Mhm.
So some, not a lot, but let me just be clear. Even the ones who stay silent, you're just as responsible. But for those police officers who adopt that lifestyle of enforcing the law or that position, it's not up to you. Someone is allowed their day in court, and when you take that from them, you are breaking the law. But I just think the worst,
Are you? Are you breaking the law?
the police officers are.
Are they? Are they? Because with things that's
Well,
going on now, are they
they
really breaking the
are. It is
law?
against the law. Like that stuff is
Yeah.
against the
They
law. That's
seem to
why
be
his
getting
ass
away
is
with
in
it.
jail.
They
Some of
see a
them
lot of
do. But at least the guy from the
It's true.
corrections officers
It's
in
true.
Robert
You're
Brooks'
right. You're
case,
right.
those
You're right.
guys,
You're
at
right.
least 3 of them pled guilty. Go for you pleading guilty. At least 20 of them were involved in the whole thing, and only 2 or 3 of them actually pled guilty. The part where
I
she
can't lie.
talks about the police officers forcing the other black men to beat her, that part is the most sick part of it, because it's like you couldn't see fit to do it yourself. If you felt that that's what you needed to do, you had to force another person to
Period.
do it for you. It like the
Mhm.
it was so
Mhm.
demeaning.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's the worst part of it, but like in this moment, I'm like, that was the worst
Nah,
part.
no, no. The whole thing was hard to swallow.
Yeah.
The whole entire thing was hard to swallow. But the end of life really took a lot out of me. When I read that, I was like, really? She survived so much, right?
I just, you know what I question? The question you need to ask yourself in general, like, what did Black people getting the right to vote, how would that really impact the day-to-day lives of the white people that were opposing everyone being able to vote?
You already know. That means those Negroes got to say so. And sometimes I think this is one of those things that we've recently witnessed, that people will cut their nose off despite their face. So they will subject themselves to being uncomfortable. They will put themselves in a situation that is uncomfortable just to make sure that somebody else don't get it. They don't even want it.
Oh, I
You
know.
you look at what's going on there with them jobs, motherfucker. You don't. Excuse me, Lord. I'm
Black
sorry
job
again. Look, you don't want to be out there picking no blueberries.
and nobody
You,
ain't.
you don't want to be out there doing this manual labor, but you will do anything to prevent somebody else and then wonder why all that going rotten.
No, I know, but and the thing is, I think what they don't seem to understand is in that time, and even now, the population breakdown was not like we make up a certain percentage of the community. And if
But
this
not enough.
last, but not an, there it is. We do not make up enough. If this last election did not prove any fucking thing, we do not make up enough numbers to sway how things operate in this town.
Doesn't this kind of go along? Just hear what I'm about to say. Doesn't this kind of go along with those same people that went against her? She got an award, and then there was people of color that had such an issue with her having that award. If everybody would have been playing for the same team and had the same
But we were for the
task in
most part.
mind,
We were for the
no,
most part.
honey, no,
80
we had
80% of 80%, well, 90%, what was the percentage of women? 90% of women got understood.
92%.
92, that's right.
92%.
92% of
Girl, I
women
don't forget that
understood the
number because
assignment.
I need
Thank
a
you.
shirt that says
I was like 80,
92%.
but it was
No,
80% of men.
90.
Now, could it have been higher? Sure. But there was a good percentage that didn't vote. But like when you look at this here, our interests we're like we didn't make up enough numbers to make a difference. So if anyone sits there, now we're going to keep this focus on Fannie Lou here, but if anyone sits there and says and doesn't understand why Black women are like, well, I'm going to learn me some line dancing and I'm sticking this shit out, is because this proved a
I'm
lot.
I'm a sip.
Sip my water, sip my tea, learn a fucking line dance. If you wonder, and when you sit there and question it, like women, other women voted against your own interests. So when your husbands and your spouse and your families are getting picked up off the fucking street, excuse me. So when your family members, your husband, your wife, your children with cancer is getting picked up off the street and sent to places, which, by the way, some were actual citizens born here. You voted against your own interests. You voted against your own family. You forgot, for the Latino community, you forgot who you were and how other people see you and how they see you. Y'all were confused. Sorry, this is not a
Um,
political conversation, but it is very, very relative
hmm.
to what we're talking about now. I don't know how much you want to leave in here. Like, I don't want to take away from Fannie Lou Hamer and what she experienced and endured.
I think it's relevant though.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say it's relevant is because she fought so hard. She had a life where I feel like she suffered a lot.
Yeah. Physically, mentally.
And she did all of that. And and is there progression? Absolutely. I'd be lying if I was like, oh, it was all for nothing, right? So I'm not gonna say it was all for nothing, but I'm gonna say, hey, you know what? We think we've come a long way, but then you read this and you're like, what really has changed?
It's a progression we actually get to vote in the polls. But what are we voting for exactly?
But does our vote even count?
Doesn't feel like it.
You just said that. Does our vote
Don't feel
even
like it.
count? There's still one too many stories of people of color getting similar beatdowns. They don't even beat you down now. Now they just pull out a gun and shoot you.
While you're sleeping in your own bed. Breonna Taylor.
Or like I I I, I keep saying, is it improvement? Yeah, but how much? You can't. Ooh, it's kind of like I don't want no consolation prize.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I want the prize. I want the whole damn thing. I don't. Why are you taking baby steps to treat people with fucking respect and dignity? Why we gotta take baby steps to do that?
You know what's wrong with this country? Like, and I'm not, it's the foundation it was built on and then what they did with it and how they treat people going forward. With the claim, and even she said, like, it was founded on freedom. People came here because they wanted to experience religious freedom and they were escaping persecution. That was the foundation. And they decided to revolt against the crown because they felt like they weren't getting representation, despite the fact that y'all was being taxed for it. So the very things that brought people here, the very things that brought this country to what it is, separating from Britain and stuff like that, are those same things that people who come here today are seeking. There's no difference. But some of these people are also experiencing persecution from what? They're looking for religious freedom. They want to be safe. They want to create safe havens for their families. they want to be able to provide from their families because they are in extreme poverty. I'm not saying that's the truth for all people, but we're based on this thing coming here, building a life, seeking freedom, but then the people that are coming here are being judged for it and treated differently for it. And now,
If you really, man, okay, listen. I know we said we was leaving this about
mhm,
Fannie, but when you really sit and think about it, when you really let it resonate, it's all built off of a lie.
exactly.
It's just a lie.
Maybe
Okay.
that's why we're
It
here now.
um and that's just what it is. It's
Mm,
this it's this fantasy. I'm about to say
mhm,
fact. It's this fantasy that here is going to be better. But when you arrive here, it's like it's better, just not for you.
mm.
And it's definitely not better for the people that was already existing here before you said, let's make this thing great.
I still ask, when was it? Maybe
Because
for white.
I know some people that made a difference.
When was it? Can someone pinpoint that time? Was it when y'all the during the sorry
Hold up. If I had my watch on, I'd be like, I'll wait.
we and for who? When was it great and for who? When y'all were fighting the War of Independence from Britain? I don't know, French Indian War. Oh, when you were stealing people's land, was that it? Oh, putting people on reservations, was that it? Oh, when you had slaves and you know had them picking cotton because you too goddamn fucking lazy. Excuse me, God. When you were too motherfucking lazy to do it yourself or pay someone else to do it. You know, hey, let's do free labor. Funny how that worked out. Was that it? Nope.
Or was
Wait.
it when, or was when those slaves were benefiting from this so-called slavery? Because
Oh,
they
okay.
benefited. Remember?
Yeah, yeah. The slave
You think
owners.
that's what it
Oh,
was?
the land that you got. Wait, y'all received reparations. Oh, funny how that worked for loss of your slaves. So you got generational wealth built off of somebody else's back because not yours. That must have been it. Oh, wait, when you hired those same people to be sharecroppers and never paid them, that was it because y'all was getting free labor again or very dirt cheap labor.
Period.
Maybe that was it.
Oh, you mean like that listing, $11 an hour? You didn't see the listing? Oh, you
Mm-mm,
did see the listing. Girl, you
mm-mm,
didn't see that listing?
mm-mm.
Oh, pick blueberries for 7 days a week, 9 to 10 hours,
Yeah, actually, I
eleven
did see
dollars,
that. Now that you say it.
$11 an hour.
That was it. That was great. Wait a second. When you put the Japanese Americans in internment camps, oops, that was it. Oh no, wait, I got one for now. When they call white South Africans refugees, oh, that's it. What are you fucking being persecuted from? Please help me understand. Sorry, Miss Hamer, but
So let me understand.
this
Let me
episode has
understand.
invoked some things.
Look, let me understand this right. So brown people, colored people, they are immigrants.
But they were refugees.
But them white people, those are refugees.
They also got a welcoming committee. They also got a welcoming
Girl
committee.
got a whole
Welcome.
got a
I
whole
kid
personal
you
fucking plane.
not.
Didn't they get a whole personal plane, a whole personal flight?
I don't know about that. But you can
They
be a
did.
refugee as long as
They
you're
got a
the white color.
as long as you white, you a refugee then. I feel like Reading her story, yo, I'm gonna have to unpack it,
Yeah.
and I'm going to have to work through it emotionally. Um, I feel like she had a whole life of a lot of darn suffering,
Mm-hmm.
and some of it unprovoked. But the fact that she was so persistent despite it all, I'm gonna vote.
Yeah.
I'm gonna vote. Y'all threatened to, I mean, y'all have beaten me, y'all fired me, I have no place to live.
Yeah.
I'm gonna still exercise my right to vote.
Absolutely.
And the sad thing is, it's not just sad. I think it's really disgusting if you really want to know the truth. When people of color or minority women don't vote.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I know I'd be like, oh, I don't pass judgment. No, I pass judgment there.
Same.
I'm sorry.
Oh, yes, I
That's
do.
that's where the boundaries are like, oh fuck. You know what? I don't even know. When people of color, when women do not exercise their right to vote, I'm like offended. I remember feeling some
Same.
type of way when somebody I was close to at one time said they really didn't vote. I don't think I shared that with you. I probably did because I was really emotional in that state. I was like, bitch, your fucking
Yeah.
ass don't even vote.
Dummy.
I mean,
But now, do you feel like, what's the point? Like, because I felt the
you mean
same
after
way.
this?
Yeah, I
After
felt
this
the
right
same
here?
way. Yeah. After, well, I mean, after our most recent opportunity to vote, like, I felt like, well, what was the point? I was so like gung ho about, like, yeah,
I-
let's go. We got our
Um,
right to do it. But
even though I'm disappointed, the atmosphere, ah,
yeah,
people are so angry and filled with hatred for no reason.
absolutely.
Like y'all been angry this whole time,
Yeah.
but before y'all was smiling about it.
Yeah.
But now it's okay. Oh,
Oh,
you
yeah.
brave, you bold, you in the atmosphere for it now. Um, eh, um, I still feel, and this is the only reason why, and maybe I'm wrong, because I found out that I have been wrong about a lot of shit and a lot of people and choices that I have made. Um, I feel like people like her fought too hard
Mm,
and took too much abuse and sacrificed so much of their life. And you ungrateful motherfuckers.
mm. Well, here's the
I
thing.
I I don't care if my vote doesn't count. It did not count clearly. My I was at 92% and it didn't count. It didn't make a difference. But does that mean that I'm not going to stand in those long lines? Does that mean I'm not going to make sure I have my proper identification? Fuck no. I don't I don't I don't care if it don't never count. And I've heard before that it really don't count, that it never really did. I've heard that.
Because the
before.
electoral college, yeah. I mean, that's how
I've heard that.
that's how you won the first time.
I've heard this. I've heard that it doesn't really matter, and I heard that we never really make the final decision anyway. That you know.
Yes, yeah.
Um, but regardless, I hear stories like this, and I know some of my history. I did say her name sound familiar. Dang it! I say her famous quote all the time.
That you do.
And so I would never not I would never not participate in the act, whether it means something or not. It's never a waste of time because I feel like I'm honoring the people that fought so hard for us to have these rights. Just like I feel some type of way about these kids that don't get their education. Do you know how hard they fought for you to get a fucking education? And now you have the opportunity to sit in somebody's classroom and have opportunities that they fought so hard for, and your ass sitting there like, I hate school. Bitch,
Oh, I know.
bitch, is you crazy?
I know.
You
Like,
couldn't even read. They wouldn't even let you read. You was beat and killed for reading.
mhm.
Now you have the opportunity to go to school and you can read and you can get an education. I mean, I guess I'm talking to myself because I could have got my motherfucking education. I just got
Well,
listen. I did some
listen.
college. I didn't finish. I should have finished. But regardless of the situation, like you have these opportunities, and I feel like so many people before us put their life on the line. They put their life on the line.
And that's the part about I get confused about because like I'm like the opportunities like people feel that I think the mindset is with all these people coming here there'll be less opportunities for us, which is untrue because if anything else, if you can make a living off of doing social media as a whole-time gig, there is enough opportunity here for everyone. And if you there's no if you feel like as a person that there's no opportunity for you, it's just because you are a lazy ass because you're lazy and you don't want to push towards those things. So you don't want to push towards those hard
Mm,
things. You would rather blame it on someone else or someone else's culture, saying that, oh, they're taking these opportunities away. Are you going to go work that field? No. Are
I agree.
you going to be mowing somebody's lawn? No. Are you going to be picking up somebody's junk? No. So what are they taking from you? Nothing.
Accountability. They don't want to say that my life is fucked up because I'm lazy. They don't want to say my life is fucked up because I'm not willing to work those fields. They won't say my life is fucked up eh,
Oh.
because I've squandered away my opportunities. I think a lot of times people have to have somebody else or something else to blame for their fucking
Mhm.
dysfunction.
They
Um, and I mean, what did I just said it. I just said, I have made a lot of wrong decisions and choices and people that you know what I'm saying? So
mhm.
a lot of times it's that accountability factor. They don't have it or
Or this.
in
Consider this for a
denial.
second. Or they think they're too good to do that kind of work.
Well,
I'm
rumor
too
has
good to
it
be in a field. I am too good to be mowing the lawn. Nobody is above doing that kind of work.
God, I know that this is what I really think they're trying to push. And I could be wrong because I'm always the conspiracy theory whatever. I think their hopes and their plans is to have people so destitute they will go and work them fields. But I'm gonna be honest with you, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. And you can definitely cut this shit out, but I don't give a fuck. This is how I feel. Before I go work in them fucking fields like a slave, like what y'all really want, Y'all want these black and brown people, you want poor ass people to work them fields for little of nothing because they have to have the money. Before I'll go work in those fields, I will sell a piece of ass. That shit.
Don't be going on Handmaid's Tale on me now. Because it feels like we're moving towards that anyway. Oh, by the
Fuck that.
way,
I,
they're going to want us to be home having babies so we can get 5,000 a
listen,
piece.
shit. I won't have no babies, but I will fucking sell a piece of ass before I go work out there in the fields for $11 an hour. And I mean that shit. Listen, I'll say that shit with my whole fucking chest. I will sit.
Mm, mm.
I because that's what they want you to do. That's what they're aiming for. That's why they literally tried to change the child labor laws.
Oh, I know, in Florida. That's
They
crazy.
literally tried to change the child labor laws to
No, they
that's
achieved it
that.
in
If
Florida.
that's not, oh no, they took it. No, no, it did not pass. It did not pass.
In
It
Florida?
did. It did not pass. I
Oh,
saw a thing on
good.
it today.
Oh,
Unless it
thank
was
God.
wrong on YouTube, but it did not pass. It did not go through. They did attempt
Okay.
it. But if that is not targeting, what the fuck? That is targeting. If I ain't never, and that's blatant targeting. Oh, you know them rich white kids, they not gonna have to. They're not gonna have to. Your people, y'all not gonna have to. You talking about these poor households that really could use the money. You're talking about these poor kids that's like, let me help my mother. Let
Or
me
like
help
she
my
did.
father. Or
Or
like, period.
like she did. Yeah, like she did.
Period. Period. So yeah, that is definitely targeted. And again, I'm not too good for it. Please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not too good for it. I just fucking refuse.
You want to
Cause
give them what they
that's what
want?
you're I'm not gonna give you what the fuck you want. I'll sell a piece of ass
Before.
before I do that shit.
Well, consider.
I get me a OnlyFans.
Nah. I will say this. Like, even she did live a hard life and she did sacrifice a lot, her body, her mind
Yes.
for this. And it wasn't in vain. Like, I think s- we could look at it from the lens of it was in vain. But here we have 92% and 80%. So it wasn't. And her testimony was, according to what we've read, was instrumental in passing the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which gave us this ability to be
92.
an 80. Like there's a sadness when it comes to this, but then there's also a beauty in it because had it not been for right, like had it not been for people like her, this
Girl.
this wouldn't be.
Did you already put together her thing? Did you put together her
No, not
I
yet.
think you should do 92%.
Mm, okay. Okay, we'll put on there.
I
Yeah.
like when you said it, I was like, oh, you know what? She's so right. Because without her, we wouldn't have had that 92%. Even though we
And not
wasn't
just her,
successful.
but like
More than you're right. You're right.
as the collective, like Martin,
Absolutely.
Medgar, she didn't lose her life to this, but there are people who did.
Mhm.
And that's why
Absolutely.
I agree with them. Like I like, even though I feel like it didn't count, I would have never taken it for granted that we now have this opportunity, whether if it counts or not. Because people lost their lives in this struggle. And I do think that is very, very
I agree.
disrespectful to take their sacrifice in their life or other things, their bodies, like they wouldn't treat their mamas like that. They
Shit,
wouldn't.
some of them probably would.
Or maybe. Let this be a reminder to everyone who, even if you feel like your vote doesn't count, you take that opportunity and you go to those polls and you vote. People lost their life, they were belittled, berated, beaten for us to have this equality in education or the choice. See, that's the
Yeah,
thing.
there
We
it
want
is.
the choice. We don't have to choose it, but we want the choice to be able to go to higher education if we want to. We want that's all they wanted. And we have it. And I'm not saying that it's flawless. And not saying that things aren't changing, but because of them, we were allowed a lot of opportunities that we shouldn't take for granted. And hopefully we will continue to still have, despite the changes that we're seeing now. So thank you. Let this be a thank you to Miss Fannie Lou Hamer. We appreciate all your sacrifice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as always, thank you for joining Oust Now Podcast Presents. This is us. We cannot thank you enough. We cannot grow without each and every one of you. And we hope that you take away something. And um, with these particular episodes, with this particular This Is Us, we hope that you are not just taking away something, but truly learning something.
Yeah. We appreciate your support, and we know this episode is longer than we expected, and maybe we might have went down lanes that we weren't planning for, but it's all relative. So consider that. Thank you for supporting us in this journey, and catch you next week.